July 2019, Niagara, New York. We found a nice RV park in Niagara. It's only about 15 miles from the border crossing into Canada and Niagara Falls themselves. As usual, there was a bit of a traffic jam at the border, but it wasn't long at all before we got into Canada and to the falls. Janet and I have both been to Niagara Falls before, but it's been quite a few years since we were here last. And since it's on our way to Maine, we thought we'd take advantage of the opportunity. The falls and the area around the falls are still as beautiful as I remembered them to be. Although I think the area is a little bit more commercial than it used to be, and it has way more people visiting than I remember. If you ever get to the falls, you have to see the falls from all angles. Seeing the falls from the street side or the walkways along the river is very different from seeing them up in town and looking down at them. Even at a distance, the sight and sound is spectacular. And if you get the opportunity, explore the city. Yeah, it's a tourist trap, but lots of good food and lots of interesting entertainment. Just a bit downriver from the falls, you'll pass through a residential area and then to some nice parks. There's a bus line that runs up and down along the side of the river. It's near the end of this bus route that you're going to find the Butterfly Conservatory. This is a very large glass building filled with I have no idea how many different species of butterflies. But it's a nice walk through the building, looking at all these butterflies, each one more colorful than the next. After seeing Niagara Falls from the roadside and from above and exploring these gardens, it was time to see it from below. It was time to take a ride on the Maid of the Mist. These boats load up with passengers and do a scheduled run up the river right into the falls. If you decide to take a ride on the Maid of the Mist, I can make you two guarantees. First, you're going to get the best view and feel the actual power of these falls. Second, expect to get wet. Very wet. So if you ever get to Niagara, you really do need to ride on the Maid of the Mist. Next, we walk the trail to the base of the Horseshoe Falls. Here's another place where you're guaranteed to get soaked. The falls there generate this constant mist and wind and rumble. It kind of feels like you're standing in a thunderstorm. Next stop, a walk along the rapids downriver from the falls. The roar of the water as it goes by is incredible. You can feel the power generated by all that water passing you by. The water is so loud, you actually have to raise your voice to be heard. The path that takes you alongside the falls is real popular, so if you want to walk it, you might want to get there early, but it's well worth the money. We made this walk along the river on our last day at Niagara. Because again, it's time to move on. The next stop on our travels is Fort Drum Army Base, New York. Our niece Tori and her husband Zach live in that area since he's stationed at Fort Drum. And since we missed her in San Antonio, we thought we'd make up for it by visiting her at her home at Fort Drum. So we had plans, But of course, the Army had plans of their own. So for the second time this year, we missed her again. We only planned for a short stay in New York anyway, so it wasn't long at all before it was time to move on again. We're leaving New York. We're still headed for Maine, and look, we added another state to our list. Our travels continue.